What is a CPU? First off, CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. What do we mean by processing? In computing, processing means doing math and calculating logic. This is accomplished as the processor receives data and instructions on what to do with that data. Let's go deep into a CPU and see how this processing works. To do this, I'll compare a CPU to a factory. The factory is divided into several sections. Each section is capable of producing on its own. In a CPU, these sections are called cores. Each section has a supervisor in charge of what the section is working on. In a CPU core, the supervisor is called a control unit. Each factory section has shelves for storing the materials used by the workers. In a CPU core, the shelves are called registers. The factory uses conveyor belts to move in materials and move out finished products. These conveyor belts are called buses in a CPU. The work of the factory is precisely scheduled to make sure that materials going in and products going out don't collide and cause issues. In a CPU, this is accomplished with what is called a clock. Now we come to the worker, the beating heart of the factory. In a CPU core, the worker is called an ALU, Arithmetic Logic Unit. Let's see how the factory functions. Materials are brought in on conveyor belts and temporarily stored on shelves. The supervisor tells the worker what is needed to be done with the shelved materials. The worker performs the work and returns the finished product on the conveyor belt. All this work is done on time by following a schedule. Now let's compare to how a CPU works. Data is brought into the core through the bus. The data is stored in the register. The control unit tells the ALU what to do with the data. The ALU retrieves the stored data and performs the required operation. The result of the operation is sent out on the bus. All the retrieving, operations, and sending of results is performed on time as the internal clock controls the timing. The most common terms about CPUs are related to the clock. The timing is expressed in hertz, or how many times per second the clock ticks, to signal to the workers to move their work along the factory floor. The most common measurement today is gigahertz, or 1 billion times per second. The amount of work the factory can accomplish per tick of the clock is called IPC, or instructions per clock. Another way that CPU power is expressed is in T-flops or teraflops. This means trillions of floating point operations per second. It's a standardized way of measuring how many complex calculations involving a decimal point the CPU can perform per second. The CPU clock speed tells you how fast the clock ticks. The IPC tells you how many instructions the workers can accomplish per tick. The teraflops tell you how much complex work can be accomplished by the workers in 1 second. And those are the basics of a CPU. A CPU is a little factory that takes data and performs calculations, then returns the results. The performance of a CPU is measured by the speed of its clock and the amount of work it can do in 1 second.